Thank you so much, Chris. And some great learnings there about sort of how to embrace first principles and designing for difference. But I wanted to make it really real for you. And I wanted to be able to sort of speak to people who've lived and breathed this and to ask them some questions, which is what I'm going to do. So welcome to the stage, Nicola, who is Head of Marketing for UK&I at Tony's Chocolonely. Good job I had my notes. And Guy, who is co-founder and CEO of SURI, to join us to talk about this.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. So, Guy, Chris told us the start of your story. It's a crowded marketplace to enter the toothbrush marketplace, dominated by two big players. So, what possessed you?
Or to study. I'm massively risk averse. So, I started during COVID. I left my job, and the first thing I did, probably because I started my career at Procter & Gamble, was buy shares that cost way too much money. But what it did show me, which was really insightful, which got me really excited, was two brands dominate in almost every developed market, 75% share. And obviously, at that side, most people would be like, right, this is not for me, never going to win. I went on to do a lot of qualitative research and quantitative research. I used every tool, SurveyMonkey, everything I could afford. And what was really interesting was some of the insights I got in qualitative research, where when I was speaking with people, I would ask one of my favorite questions is, so, do you use an electric toothbrush? Yes, I do. All right. How many times a day do you use it? Twice a day. Every day? Every day, except when I travel. All right. And how much did you pay for it? About 100 quid. And what's the name of the brand? And they would go, oh, the one that goes like this. And I would go, I don't know that brand. Oh, the one that goes like this. And I was sitting there going, wow, so you use this product every day, and you can't tell me the brand, and I ate it. So that told me there's a loyalty through familiarity rather than brand love. And so I knew that if we could create a product that people really loved, that there was an opportunity for us. And we took all of those insights, and you mentioned 30-day battery, it's a 40-day battery, but battery was one of the things that people really complained about. My brush lasts 7 days, I can never travel with it, I've got the kitchen sink I need to take with it. So we put all that into our innovation, but at the same time, my first daughter was being born when we were working on the project, and I knew that if we were going to start a new brand, it had to be something that was future-focused and with a purpose. And so, as I dug in further into the details of toothbrushes, I found a sad little fact that in our research not many people knew, which is that toothbrushes aren't recyclable. We throw out over 5 billion a year. That's enough to circle the planet 14 times. And it seemed like a bit of madness, and nobody was talking about it. It was like a second to plastic straws. And so we decided, maybe foolishly at the time, to do plant-based heads that we would recycle for free, both in the UK and the US. Every investor told us, well, that's a lot of cost, don't do that. And every factory was like, we're not going to do that for you. But in the end, we managed to make it happen, and here we are 2.5 years on. We're definitely the startup. We're about 30 people. We've done over 35 million sales, net sales. And we have our challenges also, which I will talk about hopefully soon.
Brilliant, thank you. Similar question to you, Nicola. What have you really done differently at Tony's?
What have we done differently? I think everything when it comes to being a chocolate company. First of all, we didn't intend to be a chocolate company when we started. So the founders of Tony's were actually a team of journalists who were just trying to draw attention to exploitation in West African cocoa. So they launched the first ever Tony's Chocolonely milk chocolate bar, which is the red one that you saw up there, as a PR stunt, really to get press in the Netherlands. And it took off within a couple of days. They'd sold 8,000 bars. And they thought, oh, there might actually be something in this. But I think because they weren't designing it to be a chocolate company, they did everything that other chocolate companies don't do. So first of all, milk chocolate in the Netherlands is in blue wrappers. Ours was in red, as a kind of alarming wake-up call to the industry. The unequally divided bar that Chris was mentioning, that is because the chocolate industry is unequally divided. It's the number one thing people complain about our bars, that you can't share them fairly. No. That's kind of the point. And also things like there's no chocolate visuals on the front of pack, and the rainbow on shelf, like all of that actually wasn't necessarily intended to deliberately like cut through the category, but that's exactly what it's done. And also the fact that because we have tiny budgets compared to our competitors, we have to sweat every single penny and we have to earn all of our reach. We can't cut through with cash. We have to cut through with creative. So I think just having that beautiful constraint, as they talk about at Eat Big Fish, has been a huge kind of propeller into us doing things differently and been a huge part of our success so far.
Brilliant. You've broken all the rules. I love it.
Yeah.
We're huge fans, by the way. We did a swap once. We have a whole closet.
Oh, I have one, yeah.
You have it, like, I was wondering.
That's good to know. And actually, you call them the Rebel Alliance. So you're a group of change brands. When they come together, apparently it's called a Rebel Alliance, which I really like.
I think the opportunity to work together a bit more is, it's obviously huge advantages as a holding company when you're trying to do this. So trying to create something that is an informal collaboration of brands, I think, is a smart thing to do, and it's building some good momentum.
Brilliant. And as part of our sort of partnership, we'll be bringing that Rebel Alliance together to sort of share some thoughts with you. Give. Obviously, it's a journey. There have been some challenges, which I know. What have you had to? How have you had to evolve? How have you had to change?
Well, I guess one that really sticks out for me that's changed over time would be my relationship with my co-founder. We're very different people. Some of you may have met him, and some of you may have met me, and you'll be like, wow, how did they get along? And the reality was, in the beginning, we butt heads a lot. We were friends before, but we'd never worked together. And in the early stages during COVID, we were on Zoom 24/7. It was almost like a portal in our house. We'd walk in and out of the room and continue talking. And because we think so differently, that had a lot of frustrations. Which we then had a meeting at the end of the week that we called, let's have a session to optimize and figure out what we can do better. It turned into a bitching session, excuse my French, but we just sat there complaining. But then at the end of it, we realized that because we think differently, we actually mean different things that frustrate each other. And so we worked really hard to figure out how do we harness these differences, which most people will be like, those are soft skills, not that important. But it was super important because I think that is what's given us our superpowers now. Because we managed to harness them and actually respect each other's differences of opinion. Even though I'm very detailed and pragmatic, I like to do things this way. He likes to look big picture and do things in different ways. We know that they slot together really well. And that's something that with our team today that we really encourage. We're 30 people, and ultimately, we come to work, we see our work, it's more than we see our family, right? So it's really important that we optimize for success together. And so we teach them, we call it trust, although it's a bit more, but if you have the trust, walk up to a colleague and say, hey, I really didn't like it when you did that in the meeting. I think this could be done better this way. And what do you think I could have done better? And not feeling like they're going to judge you or you're going to sour the relationship a bit, but being able to just go up to people and say, like, because you want the same goal at the end of the day. As a small company like us, we just want to grow fast and be profitable always. But, and obviously delight customers and make everybody happy. But that's not a bad. But there's tensions when you're trying to do things very fast, and people have different opinions, and it's like how you just respect those and see how you can test them or drive consensus, and just not sort of take things home and then build it over time, which I think happens in every workplace. I think even when I was at P&G and WPP, I definitely had frustrations with colleagues that I never really ironed out over time.
So that would be about having sort of a safe space, but also encouraging those sort of like spicy dialogue, that's like diverse perspectives.
Yeah, a spicy dialogue that comes from a good place, right? Like, I want us to be better as a team, and I don't think this is working. So what will we do differently? And taking the feedback as well as giving it.
Brilliant. Nicholas, same question to you. I'm curious, how have things changed along the way?
Yeah, things have changed a lot. So most of you probably don't know, Tony's Chocolonely will be 20 years old this year. We launched in the Netherlands 20 years ago. We've only been in the UK just over 6.5. So we've gone from that, baby phase to toddler, and I think we're probably, teenagers now. And similar to what you were just saying, Guy, the structure and the leadership of the business has had to change over that time. So we started with the journalist founders who didn't intend to run a business and didn't necessarily know how to scale a business. Then we had Henk Jan, who came in, who we kind of feel was our founder. He came in 2012. He was the real entrepreneur who was like, we can actually make this a successful chocolate business and also scale the impact we're having in West Africa. So he was the one who had the brainchild of Tony's Open Chain, which is basically where we do what no other brand would do and give away our secret sauce. So our 5 sourcing principles that are proven to dramatically reduce child labor, eradicate slavery and deforestation in your chocolate supply chain. He was like, we're not only going to do that for Tony's, we're going to do that for all cocoa. And he started that journey and had great success with it. And then he decided, okay, actually for this company and for this mission to really take off and be 5% of West African cocoa in the next 5 to 10 years, which is our big ambition, it needs someone else. It needs a proper CEO. It needs a proper structure and leadership structure. So he got out of the way and hired Douglas Lamont, who was the previous CEO at Innocent. So that was an amazing learning for our business and just shows the testament to Hank Yan and his view of the mission. But I think what we've learned along that journey is we've tried to never lose the agility and the flat hierarchy and flat structure, because exactly as you were just saying, so much of what makes Tony successful is the fact that everybody from the intern who just joined yesterday to everyone on the Chiefs team feels like the mission is theirs to achieve. So we all feel like our opinions, ideas, everything we think we could possibly contribute to that mission is absolutely welcome in the company. And that flat structure and that culture that we've created really means that people feel that they can contribute towards it. And I can imagine some of the bigger businesses in the room that isn't necessarily the case. So I think that's something that we've learned we need to hold on to even as we scale.
Brilliant. Now, final question, but most important, killer question. Okay. How many I want people to take a real learning from this, a real sort of practical learning. What can they take back from their business today? What steps do they need to sort of take to bring this founder mindset into their businesses? Chris?
Well, there's lots about it in the book, which I didn't be just to get a sales plug in there. But I think the big one I found really interesting was time. The way founders look at time versus the way big companies look at time. So, founders don't need to necessarily land 3-5 million in year one, but you can create a brand that over 2-3 years gets to the places that these guys have taken it in terms of revenue and those kind of things by building something that takes time to build but can really build a following. So that's the challenge, is how do you try to build that mindset of thinking for the medium term rather than just what's going to work in the next quarterly sales cycle. That slight shift, I think, is quite key. And that's what P&G have done with the EC30. They've built it inside, they've disrupted from within, and now they're applying it to Tide. And that probably took 5 years to get to that point. But now they're in a really good place.
Lovely. Bit of patience, bit of time. Eve, what about you?
I think I'm going to say something similar to speed. I used to, work at Gillette, and it would take them 10 years to launch a new razor, and they're only adding another blade. I could say that. It was just, there was a sort of a lack of desire for risk, but also I feel like the insights weren't right. And what you need to do is as a startup, we're taking risks every day. We're putting some money here, we're putting some money there, we're trying different things. If it doesn't work, we don't do it. But more often than not, larger brands would do that. At least I found it in my experience, and they wouldn't really develop the product to be what I call not an MVP, minimal viable product, but a minimal lovable product. And so they would end up killing it too soon. And so I think really you have to refine the insights, get really deep and be like, do we love this? Is this going to be great? Are we giving enough support? Because that's how a startup works, right? They love what they're producing, especially successful ones, and they make things that as soon as it lands in somebody's hand, they don't see the imperfections. We've got tons of imperfections. We know them every night. But they see what really stands out, and then they spread that message for free. Our biggest, we don't have a referral tool, and I always hear about how we need it, but at least from a potential investor. But our biggest referral is the household, right? It's a FOMO effect, we call it. If somebody has it in the household, they see somebody else wants it, and so we have 1 in 4 of our customers come back for that reason. So if you can get something really to a lovable state, even in its infancy, it'll grow on its own. So speed to test those things and try and get to those states.
I'd say not killing things too soon is really interesting, because it's I think things like the example of the compressed deodorant Unilever had years ago, which was so ahead of its time, it wasn't necessarily supported in kind of the big way it needed to be, and it was such an innovation. When you look at it on shelf and it's half the size of a can of Sure, as the consumer you go, well, that's not good value to me. The innovation was actually a bit of a game changer. So the ability to have a bit of patience and put the support behind making those changes happen, I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Progress over perfection is one of our mantras for sure. And I would say, kind of, what would you do if you had no budget? What would you do if you had a tiny team? Like, what would you do if you couldn't pay for your reach, you had to earn it? Or, you know, would that unlock some more kind of really bold creativity from your marketing teams and come up with that next bold campaign, because you've got that beautiful constraint of having to literally think like a small change brand?
Brilliant. Well, we are bang out of time, unfortunately, but thank you ever so much for that great advice. Just want to say, these guys will be around if you want to ask them any questions, and there are signed copies of Chris's book available on the New Space stand, and all the details of our partnership as well. So, but yeah, thank you ever so much for joining me. It's very much appreciated.